Hello everyone, it's Jay here from the Trading Court Podcast, a Pokemon TCG podcast bringing you anything and everything Pokemon TCG related. If you are looking for Pokemon TCG competitive decks ready to go, including GLC decks, please head over to PokéDex4U.com. Pokédex4U has a variety of decks ready for sale, with each deck being fully customizable and bespoke to your needs. Use the code TrainingCourtTCG for 5% off your first order. Now let's get on to the episode. Hello everyone and welcome to the Trading Court TCG, a Pokemon TCG podcast about anything and everything Pokemon TCG related. Jay here, and this week I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts Andy and Kath, but we are also joined by our special guest, Niall Hargreaves, a real-life Pokemon professor. So hello everyone.
Hello.
So, as I mentioned in the intro, we've got Niall here. So Niall is a real-life Pokemon professor. He is one of the judges, and you've probably seen him on stream during Worlds and also the latest rounds of NAIC. So as we do with every guest, before we start talking about what we've been playing this week and touching on the news, we thought we'd take this opportunity to actually speak to Niall and get some more information about him, what it's like to be a Pokemon professor, you know, how does it take him around the world, etc., and get some more information from him. So first and foremost, welcome to the podcast, Niall. Good to have you on. And as usual, the boring opening question from myself is always going to be, how did you get into Pokemon?
Well, obviously, born in '94, prime time for getting into Pokemon as a kid. It was everywhere. It was what I grew up on. I've always been a fan of the video games. Card games, didn't really care too much about. I had cards. Didn't really get into playing the TCG until I was 21, I think, 21, 22. Quite late after quitting a different card game. Thought I'd move to something a bit more social, a bit cheaper.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you say that well.
I've played other card games. It's cheaper. You can make it cheaper.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always grown up around Pokemon, so it's constantly been in my life.
Oh, brilliant. I think it's very similar for all of us, isn't it? I think we've all kind of grew up with the games. I think when you said you were born in '94, it made me feel very old because I'm a bit older than you. But yeah, I obviously played the games on release. We all played the games on release, and we're still playing the games on release now. I think even to last year, we all booked some time off work ready for Scarlet and Violet. And even though it was, we've made our feelings clear in the podcast. We still thoroughly enjoyed it, to be fair. It's still a good Pokemon game, but lacking in technical fidelity. So yeah, I'm going to follow up question then. Again, another boring one, which I ask is, what's your favourite Pokemon?
My favourite Pokemon is this little guy up here, Apom. I don't really know why. It just, as a kid, I always really, really liked it.
Yeah.
He's had some nice cameos in the anime and some of the movies. Just a little cheeky chap. Always dead fun.
Cards too.
He's had a couple of decent cards.
Yeah. So moving over to the TCG side of it, what's been your favourite deck, kind of present and of all time?
So when I first started back in 2016, I was very akin to Greninja Break. I played that far longer than anyone should have played it, like a lot of people who picked up the deck. So I'm quite known for that. God of War GX was very popular in 2017, which was the first year I started competing properly. Got my Worlds invite with God of War GX being predominantly the main deck I played. But my actual favourite deck is Meganium Nidoqueen Swampert, which I don't know if any of you were playing when that was a thing.
Not know.
The Meganium was rare candy on steroids. You could once per turn you could rare candy a basic into a stage 2.
Oh, wow.
The Nidoqueen for 3 energy, I believe it was, did 50 times the amount of evolution Pokemon you've had in play.
Right, so yeah, so it's kind of a synergy, isn't it, between it?
And the Swampert was discard a card, draw 3.
Oh wow!
So, and
just any card. So again, like refinement on steroids.
Yeah. So there's a card in format at the moment that does the same thing. I want to say it's one of the Quaquaval, one of the new starters.
What,
I'm sure there's
discard 1, draw 3.
Yeah, discard. Power draw was the ability on Swampert.
Is it not Gardevoir? Baby Gardevoir?
No, Gardevoir's draw 2. Gardevoir is just refinement. The same.
It's just a refinement, yeah, it is. It's not.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the card is now, but I'm sure there's a card in format that does the same thing now. But that was always.
I suppose when That just sounds mental. That sounds like something we could do with now, especially given that we're going into the slower game almost, with stage 2s becoming a bit more prevalent. Obviously, more have been announced and released, etc. So it'll be interesting. But okay, I'm going to pass you over to Andy and Kath for some more questions.
How did the professorship come about?
So I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, which was the card game I moved from. I was a Yu-Gi-Oh judge. I just got involved with stores that needed help running things. The store owner wasn't a Yu-Gi-Oh player, didn't know what the players wanted, was just go upstairs and free for all for tournaments. So I got involved with judging Yu-Gi-Oh. When I moved across, a similar thing was happening in the Pokemon scene. There was one professor in Manchester, no professors in Ashton where I live. And I knew what I was doing. I knew how to run an event. I knew what players wanted. So it was just a logical step. It's something I enjoy doing. I like shouting at people, telling people what to do, which is a primary necessary to be a Pokemon professor or any sort of judge, organizer of any sort of event. So yeah, when I moved into Pokemon, I helped build a community in Manchester. We had a small community, wasn't very competitive. That's obviously you both come to my league now. You know how that's changed over the years. So we are a lively league now, especially with our Monday nights. It's very competitive. We had 27 players for a challenge on Monday night.
27, yeah.
So yeah. I just enjoy doing it. And I traveled a little bit with Yu-Gi-Oh, and obviously I knew that there was potential for the same in Pokemon, and I've traveled more than I thought I ever would playing a card game.
What advice would you give anyone to how getting into judging and being a professor?
Well, obviously there's playing, knowing the rules, enjoying the game first and foremost. Like, we're there to help players have a good time. To make sure players have a good time, we need to know how to play, what makes a player enjoy an event. Obviously, I've played card games for a long time, already knew that. Speak to your local game store. If you have a local game store, get involved there. Speak to whoever's running it. If a store's running it and doesn't have anybody, that's a perfect opportunity. You'll be learning on a whim. You won't have as much guidance as if, say, you wanted to join, say one of you guys was interested. I would take you under my wing. I would get you involved in our tournaments, get you running them. But the more you play, the more you get involved with game stores. That's the main step. Just get involved. You don't have to know what you're doing. I didn't know what I was doing when I started, but learn on the go. Be adaptive. Understand what players want. Understand what benefits the player base. What benefits you. What benefits the store.
Cool. And what do you prefer now? Do you prefer judging or do you prefer playing?
Judging is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, the opportunities I've had and like the places I've traveled just by judging is incredible. I do enjoy the judging side of things. I love getting involved in games, getting given problems of where things have gone wrong in the game. I love fixing those. Even just as a customer service based thing, I'm a software engineer. I don't speak to people very often, so it's very good to speak with 10, 15, 20 people on a Saturday doing something I love.
Yeah.
So, but again, I do love playing. I'm part of a testing group. I will happily play as often as I can. But I think my time in the competitive scene is probably over. Like 2018, I got my Worlds Invite. That was a grind. The stress of forcing myself, like, you need to get these points, you need to travel, you need to get the points, you need to get your Worlds Invite. It's not for me. But again, like yourselves, I'm very competitive. If I'm in that position, if I was like, oh, I'll get a few points, see what happens, it will get to June and I will be at 15 cups a week, trying to get those last few points.
But do it.
Yeah, like,
I can attest to that because I feel that this week at the moment. I'm with you tomorrow, actually. I think at another league.
Oh, you're down, yeah.
Yeah, I'm down, and then I'm also at one Saturday as well, so that'll be 3 challenges in a week. Just to try and
Where's
get
the one on Saturday?
That's at Geek Retreat in Bury, so it's their first challenge of the new season as well.
That's a small one. I might go to that. I go on holiday on
Yeah,
Sunday.
I've a lot of people have said that actually. They're like, oh, it's a bit of a smaller one compared to obviously the one that we had on Monday.
Is it a big store?
People.
It's not massive.
It's not massive, no.
Not as big as Fanboy.
No, but I mean, last night it had. I think last night it was just a standard league night. And how many players did it have last night? I think they had. I've got it here. I mean, they had 16 players last night.
Oh, that's not bad.
On a Tuesday.
Saturday.
On a Tuesday.
There was only 8 of us or something.
8 of us, exactly. Yeah.
It's how it works though, because like Fanboy League's quiet on a Saturday compared to on Monday.
It just seems the weekdays seem to be a lot busier, to be honest.
It's just after work, everyone could. If you're in the area.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you obviously mentioned that you've been able to travel around the world. You've been, especially with judging, you've done some fantastic things, etc. I'm probably going to steal someone's question here, but what was your most memorable moment in your Pokemon career to date?
As a judge or a player? Judge?
Both.
Both. As a player, it's got to be getting my Worlds invite in 2018. I needed a top 64 at Sheffield Regional. I was going into the final round. I needed to win. I was playing Ultra Necrozma.
Okay, yeah.
Malamar deck versus like the Psychic variant of the Malamar deck, and it was over in 10 minutes. It was no suspense. It was my opponent bricked. I got the free win. But the day was very memorable because I had a friend who was playing for his first day too, and he was playing Stefan Ivanov.
Oh right, yeah.
And he came over to me just as like I was finishing up. He'd just got battered. So he's like devastated that he's not getting day 2.
Then you're on this high,
and I'm like on a high, and I'm like, obviously like we were up at 3 a.m. deciding the 60th card in our list. We were 2 and 2, and then he snuck in at 31st, and it was back when it was top 32. That was it before the 19-point rule. So he just snuck in. So I went from stupidly high getting my invite down here because my friend didn't make day 2, and then straight back up. Such an absolutely fantastic day.
Yeah.
So that's player. As a professor, I can't look past being on stream for Andre's top 8 and top 4 matches at Worlds last year. Seeing and then being able to have that opportunity to start with, and then 1 game, 2 games, and then eventually he was the world champion. I've got his deck up here.
You must have heard us cheering in the
I was going to say, scary enough, we didn't know you at that point, but we were there. We watched all the top 8, and we camped pretty much. We took it in turns to lose the seats because I think when we first turned up to Worlds and we went to watch, there wasn't many people watching. We were talking day 1, day 2. It was very, very quiet because most people are going the Pokemon Center, etc. And then on the final, we were like, oh, he wasn't as busy. Everyone turned up. We were like, we had to take turns to go to the toilet to make sure we didn't lose seats and everything. So yeah, we were there. And yeah, I've obviously seen your name in the World Championship deck as well. So yeah, I bet that's pretty impressive. So obviously you are going to Worlds this year as well as a judge.
I am. Yep. I'll be there in 3 weeks. I'll be in 3 weeks. I'll be in Japan.
Yeah, that must be pretty exciting as well.
So excited, you don't understand.
Yeah,
you've not been a few weeks, do you really? Haven't you?
I got that email, and I was lost for words. I imagine getting it in London. I kind of understand, like cheap and cheerful, 60 quid on the train.
Yeah, you're already here.
But like getting flown out, like obviously I've been to NAIC twice now, but getting flown out to Japan is incredible. And like,
are they sending you business class?
No, they've got money, but I wish.
It doesn't matter. I'd ride in the hold.
I was gonna say, I'll be the luggage. I don't care. Just get me over there.
Stick me on the wing with a magnet.
Yeah,
exactly. I still can't believe, like, we discussed this, like when it got announced. We were obviously in the crowd when it got announced that it was Yokohama at Worlds, and we saw people, and specifically the Asian demographic there, like burst into tears and fall on the floor, and we were like, this is a big deal. And that was only then when we looked into it and we were like, that's the first one ever in Japan, for a Japanese product, basically, original company, and to have such a massive, strong Japanese presence, to never be in Japan and for the first one to be there. So it was pretty, unfortunately, we knew straight away, we were like, oh, we can't do this. We can't afford this, unfortunately. And at that point, we hadn't even started. I mean, we went to Worlds as spectators. We'd only started playing a couple months beforehand. We didn't even know about the Open, the Worlds.
Oh, really?
We took decks to play, and we just played against each other whilst waiting between rounds. We didn't even know about the Open at that time. But we've learned a lot, and obviously that's one thing I can definitely, from my perspective, and I think for the same Andy and Gaff, is going to local leagues. You meet people who are so much more experienced, like yourself, Niall. You learn so much more, and you understand more about the actual the community, because there's so much that's not, like, I didn't even know what CP was. I didn't even know what CP was when I first started playing, and all the terms, ID. I was like, what do you mean ID? I've got my ID here, ID here, my driving license. I didn't know what ID was. I was like, what's ID got to do with Pokemon and gusting? I was like, what the hell's gusting? Isn't that what Pidgey does? Honestly, it's just, but it's just learning this terminology, and it's just, but again, and like you said before, the leagues. I don't know. I've not played in any other TCG. My background is predominantly video games. TCG is the first since I played the original TCG back in about 2001, and then stopped at high school because it wasn't cool apparently, and then started again. And started again about Brilliant Stars time. I think Brilliant Stars. Even my wife said it yesterday, because I came home after, been to League Challenge, and I went to just a league night, and I've got that, and she was like, February last year you were so nervous about going to pre-release at Brilliant Stars, and you came home and you were like, I found my people. And I was like, but it's true, like, it is true, like, I
know a lot of people who've done the same. Like, I was the same, like it's a big community when you find it.
Yeah.
But everyone knows each other as well. That's the thing. And the thing, again, that we can attest to is we're just 4 random people from the Northwest, even one's based in Italy. And we just get together every week and just chat crap about Pokemon TCG. Yet there's people out there who listen to us, people out there who watch us, people who interact with us. We've also had some incredible people in the community. Like, we've had Bert's TCG, we've had For the Win TCG, we've had Joe Bernard, who I kind of call the oracle of Pokemon TCG. We've had him, and obviously we've got yourself, Niall, as well. And it's just it's so nice because the community is awesome.
There's so many people in the community.
Big-headed. Yeah.
Everyone just loves Pokemon. Everyone just wants to do it because they love Pokemon. Like when we first started out, we had Joe Bernard on. I think we did it wasn't a podcast, but it was it was a podcast, but it was like a couple of episodes. Like, it was nothing, wasn't continuous, but we had like Joe Bernard on, we had Todd on, we had Robin Schultz on, we had big, and they just did it because they love Pokemon. They were just happy.
Exactly, yeah.
We were so apprehensive to ask people because we thought, they're too busy for us. But straight away they were like
the superstars of the TCG world, like you said, the Tords, etc. But they're just so down to earth.
Yeah.
And like you said, apprehensive about asking them. And like I said, we've had Joe on, and he was just so down to earth. Like, I was actually chatting to him before we recorded tonight, because Pokemon's announced the casters for Worlds for the TCG. So the casters are Chip Ritchie's going, Shelby Boo, Kyle Sablehouse, Ethan Heggie, Kyle Sukovich, and Ross Gilbert. So the Wassy is also going. Yeah. So unfortunately, Joe, when we spoke to him on our podcast, he wasn't aware if he was going or not. He was still waiting to hear. Fortunately, he didn't make it, and I just messaged him saying, I'm gutted for you. And he's, he did say he was pretty, he was gutted himself, but at least he can go and play now. So there's every silver lining, etc. But just to me, it's those kind of people are the kind of the superstars of the TCG world, and we're like, why would he be speaking to me? But he was. It's just, I'm just a random guy from Manchester who just plays Pokemon on a weekly basis. But again, the community is awesome, and again, thanks again for you joining us today, Niall. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you, getting to know the community you've built as well. So it's it must be pretty happy, like, when you look back and you see how big they've gone as well. Because when I was speaking to, in round 3 of Liverpool regional, I paired against Owen Cameron, who is one of the top players in Europe, and I was chatting to him, and he was telling me about how years ago regionals used to be like 30 people, and we were in 750. EUIC was just short of 1500. NAIC was just short of 2000. So it must be nice to see from these small, humble beginnings, all of a sudden this, I'm not going to say Pokemon's humble, small beginnings, because Pokemon's a huge, massive, obviously, corporation, but the card game itself has grown so much.
Yeah.
So it must be good from your side and your perspective to see that growth and the community that's built.
Yeah, like obviously, like I got in just early 2016, so I saw where it was briefly. Then obviously we had Pokemon Go in 2016, and everything jumped. And then we had like the pandemic. Everyone started playing in the pandemic. Everyone was like, "Oh, I've got nothing to do. We'll go back to Pokemon." But like you say about just the growing community, even locally, like walking around EUIC and just seeing so many faces that I knew from Manchester.
Yeah.
And they were all there playing, and they were all like, I think we had like 4 or 5 in day 2. And it's incredible. Like just seeing, obviously, how many people we had who were at these big events, but also how many were doing so well as well.
Yeah. I would say, to be fair, I was saying that yesterday about how strong the Northwest and specifically the Manchester kind of community in terms of the player base and how many players are in there. It's a really strong demographic. It's really strong. And I can definitely attest to that, because like I said, I played in the League Challenge on Monday, and it was rough. Like, it was play your heart out.
It was a strong challenge.
It was a very strong challenge. And I managed to get top 6, so I was very, very happy with that, and I got my first CP points of the season, CP of the season. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Right at the end.
Right, yeah. But
no, it's a new season.
It's a new season.
New season now.
New season started.
Yeah, it's new season.
All right. Is it?
Yeah. On my way to Worlds.
Nice.
Worlds 2024. Let's go.
Yeah. But then when I screenshotted the standings, I sent it over to Andy and sent it over to Chris Marley, who's been on the show before as well, and they were like, there's some really strong players there. And I was like, yeah, it was tough. I think I played, I can't remember his surname, Callum Griffiths. What a player. That was
very, very good player.
And I managed to beat him somehow. And it was rough. Like, my heart was going, and I was like, I can't do this. If this is going to be every week trying to get to Worlds, and especially if you get to regionals and stuff, how's my heart going to handle this? But yeah, I mean, the thing is, again,
one game at a time.
Exactly, and the support I got as well. We've mentioned Matty Byram on this podcast before. Great friend of ours. He was just so supportive, and really supportive. Talking, even when I was walking back to the car after he was walking to the train, he was like saying, "Right, you should have done that instead of this. You should have done that instead of this. This should do that." And I was like, "That's just he's so good." Yeah, I did say to him he should get into coaching, but he doesn't believe he's good enough. But I think he is.
He's definitely good enough. Like when I was playing the other day, he was like, "Why did you do that? Why didn't you just do that?" I was like, "Oh yeah."
Don't pick them up too much though.
They get too famous then. So kind of one thing we have highlighted in this podcast beforehand, and we're obviously not going to go to specifics, is obviously recently, more towards the end of the season, especially in America, judges seem to be in a lot more under scrutiny. There was a lot of incidents. It almost felt like every week we recorded the podcast, there was an incident after a regional or a special event. Now, obviously, thankfully as well, over the past couple of regionals, past couple of weeks, we've had nothing to speak about apart from results, which has been really positive, really good. Do you think that, because we see a lot of it, some of them are high profile, again, we're not going to go into specifics, but do you think judges are coming under more scrutiny than ever due to the increase in inflated player base and potentially the increase in social media more than ever, or do you think this is the way it's always been? It's just now more, again, because of social media, more prevalent.
Yeah, well, I think obviously you've hit the nail on the head. Like, we've got more players equals more issues equals more topics to talk about. We've also got an increased social media. Everyone's got Twitter.
Yeah.
All it takes is one person to see a tweet and retweet it, and it's got thousands of eyes on it.
Yeah.
But also, you've got to think, like, there's a lot of incidents that will happen that we don't hear about.
Yeah.
Like, something will happen at a regional, and a player will just go, "Yep, that's fine. This, I'm not happy about this. Have a whinge, have a moan," but it doesn't get picked up. It doesn't get picked up. Like, obviously, there's been a lot of issues in the mainstream media as well now, which is primarily because just social media and stream, and like every event is streamed now, or almost every event.
Yeah.
And so obviously we've had issues on stream, and it's caught instantly. Like, why didn't the judge catch that? Why this? Why that? Like, the more eyes you have on something in terms of player numbers, spectator numbers, staff numbers, it's just more talking points.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously, the more eyes, the more scrutiny that the judges are coming under, the more pressure is on, like, TPCI for picking the staff. Because obviously, if a staff member has an issue, it's up to TPCI then to back the staff and go, they're not gonna go public about it. But if that staff member's coming back time and time again,
that's them backing them, isn't it?
That's us being backed.
Yeah. And do you get any communication from Pokemon with regards to that, or is it just you keep getting? Okay.
Exact same as players.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel a lot more pressure on you as a judge?
I was just going to say that, because of that. Do you?
Not really. I believe in myself as a judge. I'm confident when I make a call. I'm probably making the right call. If I'm not confident in a call, I'll be discussing that call with other judges.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I put myself forward for the stream games. I'm putting myself in these high pressure environments because I believe that I'm capable of dealing with them.
Yeah.
I know there are people who don't want to be in that spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want the pressure of dealing with a stream judge, and that's perfectly fine because we've seen what's happened to judges that get called out. And as a judge, our job isn't to stop you making mistakes, it's to fix mistakes when they happen.
Yeah.
If we can stop them, great. Like,
I think that's an important distinction to make as viewers. There was the incident with the Irida getting 2 items off the Irida, and we're watching it and we're like, oh my god. But then he has to make that mistake for it then to become an issue to be fixed.
Yeah.
So that's I think that's key, that you're not going to stop them necessarily making a play that they shouldn't be doing. You have to then repair it. If nothing else that's happened since, and you repair it straight away, great, because then it is just maybe as simple as rectifying it as it is. It's when it's maybe a couple of turns later and you're having to unpick and unwind. You can't unshuffle a deck. You just can't do that.
Yeah, and like I say, like, if we can catch things before they happen, before they become an issue, perfect. But obviously, when you're on that stage, there's a lot more things. Like, you're looking out for gameplay errors, but there's so many things you've got to keep an eye on that stage.
Yeah, especially the speed that some players play as well. You just can't watch everything at the same time.
You do have to blink.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially given how we've not really covered it, to be honest, but there is a big thing at the moment in the community, whether the length of games. We're best of 3, 50 minutes best of 3, but realistically, if it's involving Gardevoir or a Lost Box, you're never getting best of 3. You get in potentially one game, realistically, and then that's why the big point of contention at the moment is best of 1 versus best of 3. Obviously, the Japanese tournaments do best of 1 to best of 3, and again, given that like you said, the speed of the players now, especially if they're behind and it's winning in, and they want to either get a tie or get a win, and they've got to come back, and then all of a sudden they start doing things like playing level ball and ultra ball together, or this and that, and they're doing shortcuts, which to us in our mind as players, we're like, well, yeah, because it speeds up the game. But for a judge, you've got to keep an eye on everything and make sure you know exactly what is being pulled from what card and everything. So it must be. I couldn't do it personally. Well, maybe I could. I don't know. I might have to speak to you after this, but
with practice.
Exactly. I suppose it comes with practice.
Always happy to help anybody who wants to get involved in judging.
Definitely. I watched recently the Pokemon official Pokemon company released a 4-part documentary, The Road to Worlds, which if anyone's not watched it as of yet, I highly recommend it, because it's made me want to really push to try and get a Worlds invite once before I retire competitively, which is weird because I've only been playing a year, but I'm old as well. And I'll just hand it down to myself.
We're older.
We're older, exactly. But in the actual documentary, it shows a couple of judges, and one of the big judges that it focused on is Mikey over in America.
Lovely guy, honestly.
I was just going to say,
nicest guys you'll meet.
Seems so nice.
Yeah. Is he as nice in real life as he is on that? Because he looks. I wanted to be friends with him.
Lovely. He's so nice. He'll go, like, if you're at an event and he's there, I will introduce you, because he's lovely, and he will have all the time in the world for you.
Yeah. And then also one of the things was, obviously, it highlighted, the Pokemon community, the positive impact of him, because he lost, I think, during COVID, he lost a lot of family members. I think he said 14, 16 members of family, which was devastating. It felt like a family. It did, and obviously that episode was called Family. But is it really like that? For example, you went out. You're a judge from England. You're a British judge. You went out to NAIC. You did an American tournament. I can imagine the judges there were then obviously multicultural. Are the judges as close knit as the actual community itself?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Like, I went out a week early with I don't know if you know Chandler from Sheffield.
I don't, I'm afraid, no.
So he's in charge at the Sheffield League now. But we went out and stayed for about 5 days with a couple of Australian judges, and we spent a week just chilling in America before the event. And then every night there's different groups of judges doing different things, and everyone is happy for anyone to be involved. We all went out for karaoke on the Sunday.
That was good.
Like,
what's your karaoke song?
I can't tell you
that's
that.
A good.
Probably "You're Welcome" from Moana.
Oh, what a tune! What a tune!
No, before you ask.
We'll get it one day, guys. Don't worry. Obviously, with every new set coming, obviously, like, we've not been in the TCG as much as long as you guys have, as long as you have, and a lot of the people that we play against have. Obviously, we see some cards essentially being reprinted and kind of like merged together. So, for example, Iono is basically Marnie mixed with N. So we know that. So that. When new sets come out, obviously that brings not new rules, but obviously new cards, new play techniques, etc. Do you get any additional training from Pokemon in relation to any new sets or any rulings, or is it literally just you've got to just read every single card and know what everything does?
I don't really think it's as much knowing what every single card does. Like, it's impossible. It's not impossible, but it's very. It's not likely that you're going to know what every single card does.
I think what every single card does.
Yeah, because then you're like, if you're memorizing cards and interactions, it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
It's understanding how cards work, understanding what the interactions are, to either try and prevent things. Obviously, knowing that path turns off abilities, and looking for cards being played under path.
Mm-hmm.
But at the start of every set, there is a FAQ about specifically that set that is only applicable to pre-release. There'll be no mention of other cards from outside of the set.
Okay.
So if there's any like awkward interactions or what a card does, they'll be answered there. But mostly it is understanding the game, understanding how cards work, and the way that cards would interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, again, I go back to it. You need to play the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You need to, as a player, you might make the mistake but you'll go, oh, okay, so that's now how this. I now know how this card works and how this interaction happens. As a judge, it's doing that prep, but so we know how to answer a question.
Yeah, because I can imagine there's probably unlimited types of variances that can happen. There's, especially now, we're seeing cards. We were saying it before. We're seeing cards played that we never thought would get any play. Like Adventures Discovery, that's all of a sudden getting play. Cleansing Gloves. You've got panic masks. You've got boxes. You've got loads of things now.
Yeah, just random, all of a sudden, little.
Yeah, exactly. Which out of nowhere, really. But I think that shows quite an interesting and varied meta. But we are aware that some people aren't too impressed with the meta. I think some people claim this is the worst, one of the top bottom 3 metas.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen that take on Twitter, which I can't comment because I've enjoyed it. It's better than VMAX's.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the VMAX format wasn't great. Tag teams is the worst I played in.
Is it right? Yeah.
I did not enjoy tag teams.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned obviously Break before. I know Azul did a recent video of him ranking of the mechanics, and he rated Break cards very, very highly, which is quite funny because in collectors, the collectors hate Break cards. So
they don't go in the binder very well.
Exactly, yeah, not the most aesthetically pleasing. Probably last question from me, and I'm probably going to steal Kath's question because I think she did raise this beforehand. Unless you want to, if you got any more questions, Kath? You mentioned before, obviously, the amount of cards and variances that come up, etc. And one of the segments that we have is RTFC. So I think you might be aware that stands for read the flipping card. So we usually ask our guests to do an RTFC, and we usually do it towards the end, but I thought I'd tie it in with this question. So it was basically, what card has surprised you the most that's been played in the tournament that you didn't expect, or that you had to look up? So again, that can play into RTFC because you had to actually RTFC.
I think one of the most recent ones would be a straight Neuverni X deck, which was at NAIC. I had no idea what that card did. I knew it was played as a one-of in
Dragonite,
Regidrago decks.
Yeah, that's
but I wasn't expecting a lot of that, so it's not something I was overly familiarizing myself with before the event. I'm going to call myself out here because at EUIC 2021, I was stream judging a Sander game.
I'm not surprised here.
And there was a mistake on my end where the Hukamuku that lets you put it on the bottom of the deck.
Yeah.
I was like, I know what this card does. It's fine. I didn't know what it did because you can only do it once per turn, and apparently it happened more than once on my watch.
Okay.
So there's my stream issue. There's my big error on stream.
RTFC.
I can say. But
well, yeah, it is, isn't it? It's like you said, you go back to the variances, not knowing every card. Because I was discussing last night with Shao, Ben, and Chris last night about my matchups in the league challenge, and I mentioned the one game I drew. It actually, the pressure was on because you came and sat down next to me and watched, and I was like, this is pressure, and it went to turns. And actually, in hindsight, I believe I could have won that now, in hindsight, because if my understanding is correctly, he had his Alolan Vulpix V-Star out, and he put Path to the Peak on. So he attacked me. I then put my Zacian out, but I believed I couldn't attack him with the Sky Sealstone for the knockout because it had abilities. But actually, the Path to the Peak actually turned off abilities, so it wasn't a Pokemon with abilities.
Removes the abilities. Your Pokemon has no ability.
So technically, I could have actually just clicked that Sky Sealstone, taken the knockout, because I was digging, if you remember, digging for boss's orders, then energy, and I had prize 2 energy, so I was going to do the Arceus, whereas Alolan Vulpix only has 240, and I had the energy attached already. So I learned anyway. I've learned from that because I was saying, so I was like, nah, I'll ask Niall tomorrow because I don't believe that's right. Yeah. So but then I don't think I would have. I could have lost the next 2 games then. So everything happens for a reason. But Yeah, well, thanks for that. Obviously, thank you for taking our questions and bombarding with them. Have you got any others, Andy Kath? Sorry, before we move on.
No, I think that's all that.
Cool. Okay. So then what we do now for the rest of the episode is we just kind of chat about any news that's been released, any new sets, we usually talk about tournament results. Obviously there hasn't been any tournament results to note apart from my top 6 win, which I'll keep saying. But yeah, I mean I think the big news that's kind of come out of late, which I think came out late last night, was that we've already, before we've even got our next sets, which is Obsidian Flame, we've already got our next set, not holiday set, our next set. Our next set announced. So, as per PokeBeach's article on the 17th of July, they exclusively revealed that Paradox Rift is now going to be the next main set for Scarlet and Violet era, and it will be released in November. So that'll probably be the last set of the year.
It's a cool name, that.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. So apparently, it's going to be comprised of the cards from Japan's set in September of Raging Surf, and October Ancient Raw and Future Flash. So again, we've not really had much news from them. I mean, the name's cool, Paradox Rift, kind of goes with the aesthetic of the games. I believe that they've said Raging Surf is going to have a Goldengo EX and a Terra Water type Garchomp EX. So that's going to be quite.
They're actually going to be Paradox Pokemon in these sets.
People are wanting like Walking Wake and what's the other one?
There's time.
It kind of makes sense. It makes sense.
I
mean, Ancient Raw and Future Flash kind of sounds like Walking Wake and Iron Leaves. To be fair, a little bit.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I think we do need some Paradox Pokemon. I also think we need something a bit different from terrestrialized Pokemon. Do you anticipate now anything kind of being big announced at Worlds? Like there was obviously at Worlds last year, they announced the EX, and obviously announced where the next Worlds were. Do you reckon we will be getting kind of any big news?
I would imagine so. Like we always usually get a new mechanic announced. So
Okay.
like tag teams was revealed, V and V stars were revealed at Worlds. VMAX will have been revealed at the same time as V. Obviously we had EXs last year, so I anticipate something being revealed.
Yeah, I mean, what's your opinion?
They need something though, don't they? Because
they always tend to mix it up.
Yeah.
Like every year, we always get a nice little mechanic added to keep things fresh.
What do you think of the Terrestrialize so far?
I mean, until we had like the we're only just starting to get the different type Terrestrialize now.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, we have Manaphy, so I don't think the Terrestrialize ability, should we call it, really adds much to the game or adds much value. And obviously, we've seen that in the fact that none of it has seen play.
Yeah, I would imagine that a lot of times it gets missed if someone's playing a Greninja, again, obviously not on live when it's working. But like, how many times must people have, I'll just put 90 damage on it, and like just forget that it's actually got bench protection when it's a terrestrialized. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen any terrestrialized Pokemon.
I've not seen
on live or live. I don't think any play. Which ones are there? You've got obviously Gyarados and you've got Arcanine from base set, and then
is it Forretress? Is Forretress terrestrialized?
Forretress. I pulled it last night.
Well, that just KOs itself. That's all you use that
does KO itself.
Dedenne.
What else is there? Dedenne. Forretress is.
Yeah, Forretress.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Stereotype. I was there. Yeah, I pulled it last night. My first Forretress. And then so Dedenne and Forretress. Oh, and Slowking.
Slowking. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, no Pokemon that see any play. So. Unfortunately, I thought Dedenne might see some play. We speculated when it first got announced that maybe it could see some play. It does have some, but I just don't know what deck it would see playing. Guardy is such a tight knit. You've basically got 52 standard cards in Guardy, and then you've got 8 cards to mess about with, and realistically, Spiritomb will definitely outweigh the use of Dedenne EX. It's a shame because I know Dedenne GX got a lot of play. I know that got a lot of play back in the day as well. So it's a shame, but yeah, we will see. But before we obviously start talking about the next set, the next set, we still have Obsidian Flame coming out. I mean, pre-release is 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away now, which is scary.
Yeah, week on Saturday, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely
We'll
mental.
miss it, unfortunately.
I'm missing it as well. I'm in America. Yeah, go away on Sunday.
Oh, very nice. Look at that. This is what you
We're
need to
away
be, guys.
Tuesday.
Pokemon professor, living the life. America a couple times a year, Japan as well. That's all right, isn't it?
This one's an actual holiday.
Where are you going in
There's
America?
no working.
We're doing a cruise, so Florida, starting in Florida up to New York, a couple of stops on the way down to Miami and a couple of Caribbean islands. So
Oh, nice.
Oh, very nice.
ready
Not
for a
jealous
nice
at all.
relax
Before Japan.
before Japan.
So what decks are you taking with you?
What decks am I taking with me? Well, sadly, my fiance refuses to accommodate the Pokemon trading card game.
You'll have to find
Just like my wife as well.
So we'll be taking a couple of board games with us. But honestly, Saturday, Sunday, Monday was staffing 3 Pokemon events. Another one on Thursday, so I could probably do with a couple of weeks without cards.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just to switch off and get ready for Japan. I'll get back and I won't know what anything does. Reading professor's research.
But yeah, so obviously we like I said, we've got pre-release around the corner. It's scary to think already,
It's been quick.
But really has, yeah. Obviously, I think there was a delay, wasn't there? Which one was it? It was Scarlet and Violet originally, wasn't it? And that was
It was like
base
delayed one.
because they wanted to shoehorn Crown Zenith in, didn't they? I think. Well, they drip fed Crown Zenith products. I mean, we're still getting Crown Zenith products.
Yeah.
We still don't know what the Lugia, that Lugia box set with the alt art Lugia and the alt art unknown from the mystery box. No idea when that's coming to UK, but it's in games. It's a GameStop exclusive in America. That's still coming out. But we've obviously spoken about Obsidian Flame beforehand. We've gone through the cards. We know a lot of it is, from missed cards from Paldea Evolved. We also know that it's a lot of the starter decks from Japan. So I think a lot of people were thinking it's quite a weak set almost. Apart from the Charizard, which will be a lot of a chase card, but I think that's predominantly for collectors. It's been a bit of a weak set so far. However, Pokemon have actually released some more cards and information from Ruler of the Black Flame, which again this set is coming from. So it's quite surprising how late this information is coming, but I think Japan's been really on the Pokemon 151 hype. But there has been a few additional cards announced for Ruler of the Black Flame. Realistically, the main kind of ones are Glimora EX. So we have the Glimora EX, like a stage 1 Pokemon, Volsung Glimmet. It's 270 HP. Dustfield is the ability. So as long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent can't have more than 3 bench Pokemon. If they have 4 or more bench Pokemon, they discard until they have 3. So essentially built-in Avery, yeah. If more than one effect changes the number of bench Pokemon allowed, use the smaller number. And then obviously Poisonous Gem 114, your active Pokemon is now poisoned. I like it in concept, but it just doesn't hit hard enough. 140 does nothing really, to be honest, for 2. And I said this, and I say this to Ollie Elwick, who's again another member of the team in the league, Manchester League. He's just I don't think there's enough acceleration for fighting. I think Dino Cry from Koraidon is okay, but it ends your turn.
Yeah.
So it's okay at the start, but again, when you're
at
the first turn, but end game, when you don't want to be Dino Crying for leaving something in the active, and then Gutsy Pickaxe, which is again okay, but you're relying heavily on that. So I think there needs to be a good energy acceleration for fighting. Maybe Arceus is the way forward, but I don't think this will see much play, to be honest. I very much doubt it. But you never know. We don't know what kind of meta we're going into. Again, some more Pokemon announced. We obviously saw the Togepi lines. The Togepi Togetic and Togekiss. Togekiss we've talked about already on the channel because it's one of the pre-release promos. So again, it's got the ability Precious Gift. Once during your turn, after your attack, you may draw cards until you have 8 in your hand, which sounds very nice. But again, it's a stage 2 Pokemon with 150 HP. Again, I don't know if it'll see much play. We don't know anymore. Then we've got the Reveroom EX, which we have spoken about as well. So the Reveroom has the ability to tune up. So this Pokemon may have up to 4 Pokemon tools attached to it. If it loses the ability, discard Pokemon tools until only 1 remain.
Hunter for OV, isn't it?
It's Hunter for OV, but that didn't see any play, really.
On a stage 2.
But I still like the idea of some rogue decks playing it. Imagine this with, Bravery Charm, Rocky Helmet, Panic Mask. Or, I think they could see some play. It could be an absolute nightmare, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's got the added benefit of having the small Reveroom, which allows you to draw cards. It's got
from basic,
having 2 good cards that evolve from one basic is always a nice bonus to give a deck a kickstart.
Definitely so. Definitely. We move on then. I think this is probably the one that most people were talking about. And again, I think maybe through rose tinted glasses, but we will see. So we've obviously got the Pidgey lines to Pidgeotto, Pidgeot EX. So Pidgeot EX is a stage 2 Pokemon. The ability Quick Search. So once during your turn, you may search your deck. Oh, I can't get off it now. I can't read the rest of it. There we go. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a card and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. You can't use more than 1 quick search ability each turn. And for 2 colorless energy, first wins 120 damage, and you may discard a stadium card in play. This goes back to another Pidgeot card, I believe, from the past, which had the exact same ability, and it was used quite a lot in the meta. Do you reckon it's going to see any play again?
I think I'll put it in Gen Pal.
Stage 2.
Yeah, well,
you've got the problem is, I think in the meta we're in at the moment, when you've got a basic and a stage 1 with 60 HP and 90 HP, which is Radiant Greninja range or Sableye range, I think this will suffer until Lost Zone is gone.
I also think that the game is a lot different from back in the day.
Yeah.
Obviously it's worth 2 prizes. It was worth 1 prize. Mm-hmm. Games can now be over in 5-6 turns. It takes a turn to get it out set up. You're not going to benefit that much from this ability. Whereas something like Arceus, it's got a viable attack. It does more than just search those 2 cards. You can build the deck around it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like I say, a deck that already plays Rare Candy, if you can find space in a deck like Shenpao, I still don't think it can replace Arceus. Because you need that kickstart at the start of the game to get set up. Yeah. You'd need the Arceus to set up the Pidgeot.
Yeah.
Which then you need multiple turns possibly to set up the Baxcalibur.
And it's Rare Candies, isn't it? Always use Rare Candies.
You got to get him. You've got to get him as well. Obviously, it's
You're finding more pieces. You're finding the same pieces to set this up as you would be for a Baxcalibur, and then potentially then missing the pieces for Baxcalibur because you would need to get them both set up.
As well. The energy acceleration of Baxcalibur.
I think it might be good, but
it's something that's certainly worth trying.
Yeah, I do think that. I mean, do we know when the next rotation is? Given that because we've still, I think every time you look at something now, I look at the HP. If I see 60 or 90, I'm like, just a Sableye or Radiant Greninja. Until we can get out of that thought process, I think
we're a while off them rotating yet, though.
How often does the rotation happen? Sorry, now.
So rotations are usually once a year. They used to happen in the summer. Obviously, the last one was obviously springtime.
This year.
I imagine we're moving forward with, or I would anticipate a similar time for rotation, with like the 5th set of the block and then obviously going on to the 9th set of the block. So we have 4 sets of rotation, 4 sets of rotation, 4 sets of rotation. That's usually how it goes, to try and keep like the number of sets the same. And obviously drop off. We tend to lose 4 sets a year. It makes sense for the rotation to be after we have another 4 sets to replace them.
So those sets would be for Sword and Shield era. It would be Chilling Rain, Battle Styles,
Fusion
Evolving
Strike,
Skies, and Evolving Skies.
Yeah. So Celebrations will be a subset. I think it is the same. I think we do lose Celebrations.
Okay. Oh, Zacian V.
Yeah.
R.I.P. I'm Mysterious Tail Mew. I swear to God, I never knew I needed that card until you play Guardian. And you get that Candy, or you get that Battle VIP Bastion one as godsend.
I'm sure Gardevoir will have more tools, but by the time Zacian rotates,
I believe so. Yeah, definitely. So in terms of more cards announced as well, we had a couple more trainers and stadiums. So we had Pokemon League HQ, which is a stadium card. The attack cost for each basic Pokemon in play, both yours and opponents, is one color more. Again, I'm sure we've seen something. Isn't that we've seen something recently? Calamitous Wasteland, isn't that non-fighting Pokemon?
Fighting, and there's one for water Pokemon as well, I think.
And that's seen more play, especially in online tournaments, to try and slow down Lost Box, basically.
Yeah.
I think I have seen it actually. I think I watched a Joe Bernard video as well, and he was like, Calamitous Wasteland, and it was like, I suppose against Lost Box, I guess you are, and even against I suppose Guardy. I suppose if you're accelerating energies to retreat, you've got to do one more. All of a sudden it's adding that additional damage, or it's I think for Lost Box you've got the escape routes, the switch carts, etc. But it's not as simple as just attaching one energy as well now, to get that retreat for the cram. So be interesting to see. But again, I could see that getting some play, some more trainers as well. So we got an Ortega, so a supporter, which is look at your opponent's hand, choose one card that you find there, put it on the bottom of your opponent's deck, then your opponent may draw one card. I think we spoke about this before recording. Not sure about it. I think it could slow down, but there's just so many. It's like Iono is great in this format now, but there's just so many cards now that you can just go an Ultra Ball and then shuffle your deck, and then that's not the bottom of your deck anymore, etc., etc. So there's a lot of cards out there that allow you to shuffle. So I don't think it's as prevalent as it could have been.
Like we said, if Absol's attack was an ability, this would be a lot better. Because then, like you said, Niall, you're controlling the top deck.
I'm sure Sander will find a way to use this card.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Definitely so. And then the next trainer is Gita, so the Pokemon champion in Scarlet and Violet. Till the end of turn. To the end of the turn, you play this card. None of your Pokemon can attack, including Pokemon you put into play this turn. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and put them to one of your Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. Any thoughts? I mean, if you go in turn 2 and you can play this to energy accelerate, and you're not gonna for Guard, he's never gonna attack turn 1 really. Maybe could be good for energy accelerant, but
anything. Maybe this is the answer to fighting, because you can play Gita and then Dino Cry.
Yeah, like I like this card, but I think we'd need stronger end your turn effects than we currently have.
Yeah.
So obviously not being able to attack is a downside, but if you like something like Zacian, this card can accelerate 3 energy and Gardevoir a turn with the Zacian on board. You've got things like Dino Cry. I think obviously that's being seen playing Tinglu at the moment, but you want to be going to you only want to be Dino Cry in turn 1. And if you're going second, you're already at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
But like I say, if you can, I think it probably will see you play in Tinglu, because if you do go second and there is that opportunity to put 4 energy into play on turn 1, then you've got that second Tinglu already starting to be set up for if the first one goes down. But I think if they bring out some interesting end your turn effects, I think the card could definitely see play.
Yeah, definitely. There was another card as well. Again, it's not on this list here, but I am aware of it. That was announced for Obsidian Flame, which I quite like the look of. It's a stage 1 Scizor. which has for 1 metal energy the attack Punishing Scissors. This attack does 15 more damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play that has an ability. If you think about how many Pokemon now play with abilities, that can hit hard. That can hit hard. It's not bad. But then they also released, as Pokemon does, some phenomenal artwork. So we've got the Palafin artwork here. Again, just phenomenal. I mean, I don't know how playable this card is. I know it's one of the pre-release promos, but I want that card. I just want that card as a collector. I want that card. Cool. The aforementioned Scizor, that's the Scizor, but again, it's got a really cool art rare. That's so cool. You know, the Cleffa. Then we've got the Pidgeline, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I love the Pidgeline. And again, the fact that it's playable as well, hopefully playable in the future, makes it even better. Then we've got the Reveroom line as well, which again,
I've not seen that. That's so cool.
Have you not seen? Oh, these are so cool.
Not the Varoom.
Oh, it's just so cool. I just absolutely love the artwork. So we've got a Gita, and then we've got it's just phenomenal. I just think the artwork that they're doing at the moment is just way above what I've ever experienced with Pokemon.
And that's been so good this set.
The pre-release cards,
Scarlet and Violet.
We've also got the Charizard, which I think is mentioned, which I think we'll hopefully be able to see. We've got Rhyme, full art supporter. Draw 3 cards, switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench as well. So again, that's quite a nice draw engine and also a gust effect. But I think the opponent gets to choose new active. So again, it'd be great if there was just one Ting Lu on the
escape rope. Escape rope with draw.
I'd prefer if it was just Bird Keeper.
Then
it could just go back in Clefairy.
And then we've got again the aforementioned Charizard EX. So again, I'm not a big fan of this. I think it's an okay card. I think it'll be expensive because it's a Charizard for the Charizard bros. But yeah, and then going back to Glamora. So overall, I mean, I think the cards coming out, there's not. I mean, I think there'll be some good playable cards coming out in Obsidian Flame, but I think it's more of a collector's set, to be honest. I think there'll be some, a couple playable cards, but I don't think anything compared to Paldea Evolved or the 151. I think 151 has quite a few playable cards as well. But again, the artwork as well, just absolutely knocking it out of the park. I've looked at other TCGs, looked at Digimon, which has cool artwork as well. I've looked at One Piece as well as a big one. There's the Disney Volcana as well, but the Pokemon ones are just phenomenal. Like the artwork that they're pumping out is just incredible. And they just keep getting better and better with each set, and it's only impacting my wallet. Right. Well, I think that's it really for the news. And I think we've held Niall captive long enough. So again, thank you, Niall, very, very, very much for joining us. And if people want to get in touch with you, see kind of your kind of keeping up to date with you, what you're doing in your Pokemon world, and also your travels to America or Japan, how can people keep in contact with you?
You're making me check what my Twitter handle is now, aren't you?
I am.
Don't worry, everyone does this.
I am at Pokemon Trainer N MCR on Twitter, which is PKMNTRNRN just to make it difficult. Or you can find me on Facebook at Niall Hargreaves. Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll put a link. Well, we'll put a link into your Twitter if anyone wants to get in touch. And obviously, again, the fact that if anyone's got any more questions for about being a Pokemon professor, etc., I definitely recommend speaking to Niall. And again, I can only speak very highly of the community that he has created. Again, want to say thank you for everyone for watching and listening. If you want to keep in touch with us, the best place is in our Twitter account, which is at Training Court. We also have an Instagram account, which is at Training Court TCG. To watch us every week, the best place is our YouTube channel, so it's at Training Court TCG, but we also do release audio only. So the website for that is thetrainingcourt.podbean.com, or alternatively type in Training Court TCG on Apple iTunes Podcasts or Spotify and be able to find us. Again, thanks everyone for joining, and again a big thanks to Niall for joining us, and we're wishing them all the best in Worlds, and we will catch you all next week. Take care.
Been a pleasure, guys. Thanks.